Quads, let's talk a little bit about Troy Stecher. The Oilers pick him up for a 4th-round pick. They get a 7th-round pick in return as well. Good veteran GMing by Ken Holland. But you obviously covered Troy Stecher. He was out in Vancouver for a number of years to start his career. What are the Oilers getting here? He's 5'9". That kind of scares some fans off when you think about a small D-man in playoff hockey.
Yeah, Troy Stecher's been kind of facing that his entire life, right? And he's somebody that plays like he's 6'3", and I mean, he's had to fight for everything he's ever gotten in the game, right? Like, this is a guy who went undrafted, tore it up with the Penticton Vees in the BCHL, spent some time at University of North Dakota. The Canucks signed him. Again, he's from Richmond, so he grew up a Canucks fan. He's got the whole hometown story. A lot of Canucks fans wish he never would have left, but it really wasn't his decision that he left. And yeah, he was somebody that was really well liked all over the locker room, all through the community. Really good person. But the player on the ice that you're getting, like, guys, this guy can move the puck. Like, he can move the puck really well. And look, I know his point totals aren't anything to be excited about, but he plays like he's, like he's had to fight for everything in his hockey career, right? Like, he's the first guy back often when the puck kind of dumped in. He's able to move the puck quickly. Like, he doesn't get hemmed in by opposing forechecks. And honestly, like, he's the kind of depth you'd want in the playoffs. The fact that he's coming on to the Oilers as depth, like, again, I don't know where he'd slot in the lineup right now. Like, I don't know if he'd be the 7th defenseman or if he'd be the 6th guy. Obviously Cody Ceci, I might say probably could be kind of switched out with Stecher, but again, we'll see what actually happens. But Stecher's good. Like, Stecher's a good player, and the fact that the Oilers got him for, depth, right? Like, they acquired him for depth, and they paid the price of acquiring a depth piece. He's a solid depth acquisition. I really like that trade for the Oilers.
Yeah, I think it's basically you have Broberg on the left side who can be your 4th D-man there if someone goes down. On the right side, they didn't have any real insurance in the system if someone were to go down. Stecher is exactly that. He'll be the 7th D-man for the rest of the year. I would expect they mix him into a handful of games down the stretch, even if there are no injuries, just maybe give some guys some nights off for bumps and bruises. But it's a 2nd straight day the Oilers have made a trade, and I'm interested for your outside perspective on the deal we saw yesterday, a first, a couple of late picks for Henrique and Carrick. What do you make of the Henrique deal?
Well, for the Oilers, and don't forget, guys, the Oilers were my cup pick at the start of the year, right? Like, I want to see them succeed. I know I'm out here in Vancouver, but I want to see the Oilers succeed as well. What I looked at was, I just tried to figure out from this perspective of, okay, we know that there's X amount of teams on Gensel, and we know that market is kind of heating up, and that a lot of the teams are looking at it and saying, okay, this is a pretty expensive player for us to go out and get. Are we going to be able to do it? And I feel like the Oilers kind of bowed out a little early. Like that's what it kind of feels like to me. Is I think you would have liked Gensel more for what the Oilers need. Look, I like Henrique. I think he's great. He can play center. He can play the wing. Obviously kind of in the back half of his career a little bit, but a guy who's got that playoff experience. I like him as a stylistic fit for the Oilers. Again, Sam Carrick also, yeah, you also get in the trade, that's a fine acquisition as well. But Henrique obviously is the big one, the one that you kind of focus on. I like that acquisition for them. I think it's a good trade for the Oilers to make. I just wonder about the timing. Like that's the big thing that I wondered about when this trade was made was, okay, did Ken Holland kind of say, well, looks like Gensel's going to be expensive, so we're going to move early and go on Henrique. And hey, maybe that's exactly what happened, and maybe that's a fine strategy. I just looked at it and said, man, I would have really liked to see them go out and get someone like Jake Guentzel. Stecher was with the Canucks in the bubble at Rogers Place, right? And Stecher was really successful in that bubble. You go back and look at that playoff series. The thing that I think I didn't explain well enough when you first asked me about Stecher was that this is a guy who usually plays third pair minutes, but when he first came to Vancouver and for much of his first couple of years in Vancouver, he was playing on the top pair with Alex Edler. And I know the Canucks sucked. Like, I know the Canucks weren't good back then, but Stecher's capable of playing top 4 minutes. Like, that's the take that I want to give you and your listeners is if the Oilers lose a top 4 defenseman or they need Stecher to bump up and step into the lineup. Look, I think he's great as a 6th, 7th defenseman, which is what he is on the Oilers. I think he's great in that role, but I also think he's capable of playing top 4 minutes. I think he's somebody that's going to help in the playoffs. He's a really nice addition for them.
What's up, Nation citizens? If you like that video, then you need to be subscribed to the Oilers Nation YouTube. Podcasts, live shows, exclusive interviews, and analysis. Everything you need from your favorite voices at Oilers Nation. And you don't want to miss any of it, so hammer that subscribe button.